So, statistically speaking, those 2 exhausting hours you spend grinding through English grammar last Sunday, they actually did less for your brain than, well, spending just 10 highly focused minutes on a single sentence.
Oh, absolutely. It's wild to think about.
Right. I mean, let's really sit with that for a second. Your perfect study routine, the one you probably feel incredibly guilty for abandoning, is likely the very thing destroying your ability to ever speak fluently.
Yeah, that guilt is real too.
It really is. I want you, the listener, to think about the last time you decided you're going to sit down and, try to study properly. Put yourself right back in that moment.
I can picture it now.
You probably blocked out 2 whole hours on a Sunday afternoon. You had that pristine, heavy grammar workbook open on the desk. You had a fresh notebook ready.
Oh, the one where the spine hasn't even been cracked yet.
Exactly, the unbroken spine. And maybe you went to the kitchen and brewed a special, really nice cup of coffee.
Because you just knew it was going to be a massive grind.
Yeah, you were gearing up for it. We have this deep societal conditioning that tells us learning, it has to involve suffering. We think if we aren't sweating over a textbook for 3 hours, we just aren't making real progress.
Right, it's this very specific aesthetic of serious productivity. You create this whole physical and mental environment dedicated to a massive undertaking because, well, it feels responsible.
It feels like work.
Exactly. You feel like you are finally taking charge. But if we look at the data on adult language acquisition, that aesthetic is just a complete trap.
A total illusion.
Yeah. The people who actually achieve real fluency, the ones who transition from freezing mid-sentence, panicking over verb tenses, to just speaking effortlessly.
Without mentally translating every single word, right?
Right. Those people almost never rely on these marathon sessions.
And that is the incredibly uncomfortable reality check we're starting with today. Because let me ask you, listening right now, and I want you to be brutally honest with yourself.
This is the hard part.
How long did that beautiful Sunday habit actually last? Did you do it the next weekend? Did it last a week?
Maybe 2 if you were running on sheer willpower.
Right. If those 2-hour coffee-fueled marathons consistently end in failure, we have to look at what the people who actually cross the finish line into fluency are doing differently.
Which brings us to the core of what we're talking about today.
Yes, the central thesis we are pulling from our sources today for this deep dive. And it's going to sound, honestly, entirely too good to be true, but the neurological research backing it up is undeniable.
It's rock solid.
Fluency is built by studying for 10 minutes every single day. 10 minutes.
That specific time constraint is the entire foundation of the system.
It's so small.
It is, but our mission for this deep dive is to unpack the precise memory science, the biological mechanics of why a 10-minute daily habit fundamentally rewires your brain faster and more permanently than a 2-hour weekly session.
No, I'm correct.
Yeah, we will explore how to construct this habit so that you physically cannot break it, even on your most exhausted days. And most importantly, we're going to conduct a live walkthrough of the actual 10-minute method right here, together.
I love that. So by the time you finish listening, you will leave having already completed your first successful session.
Exactly. You'll be one step ahead.
I mean, I was reading through the cognitive friction sections of our source material, and it honestly made me rethink how I approach basically every difficult task.
A paradigm shift, for sure.
It really is. The sources compare these massive study sessions to planning an event. Think about it. When you tell yourself, I'm going to study English for 2 hours tonight, your brain immediately categorizes that block of time.
It treats it like a fancy wedding.
Yes, a fancy wedding.
Aye.
It requires a monumental amount of mental preparation. You practically have to get dressed up for it, cognitively speaking.
Right, because when your brain files a task under massive event, it builds this enormous wall between you and the task.
Yeah.
In behavioral psychology, we look at the barrier to entry.
The friction.
Exactly, the friction. Think about the perfect conditions required to attend this 2-hour grammar wedding. You have to be in the exact right mood.
Which never happens.
Never. You need an uninterrupted block of free time. You need a completely unrealistic reservoir of willpower left over after a long day of working, commuting, and, just managing your personal life.
It's crazy. You are expecting to have this deep well of mental energy at 8 p.m., and then you're supposed to sit down and conquer the past perfect tense.
It's absurd when you say it out loud.
It really is. Life rarely provides those perfect conditions. Maybe you get that perfect storm of free time and high energy once a month.
if you're lucky.
Right. Relying on an event to learn means you are relying on ideal conditions, and ideal conditions simply do not exist in the real world.
They don't. And if big, demanding events cause so much friction that we end up avoiding them entirely, the logical solution is removing the friction,
Shrinking it down.
shrinking the event down so much that it completely bypasses the brain's defense mechanisms.
Which takes us directly into the scientific benefits of the 10-minute window, specifically regarding a phenomenon called the spacing effect.
The spacing effect is fascinating.
I want to make sure I have the math on this right, based on the research. The literature argues that if I have exactly 60 minutes total to dedicate to English this week,
Just 60 minutes.
right, doing 10 minutes a day for 6 days yields a scientifically different, fundamentally better result than sitting down for one single 60-minute block on a Sunday.
Correct.
The exact same total time investment, but a profoundly different biological outcome.
A completely different outcome. The 60-minute continuous block is highly inefficient.
Why is that?
Well, the spacing effect demonstrates that information reviewed in short, intensely focused bursts spread out over a period of time is retained dramatically better. To understand why, we have to look at the physical mechanism of memory formation.
Okay, lay it on me.
It comes down to a process called synaptic consolidation. When you step away from the material for 24 hours, the newly formed connections in your brain begin to weaken slightly. The information starts to fade.
So you start forgetting it.
Exactly. But when you come back the next day for your 10 minutes, you force your brain to reach back and pull that information back to the surface.
You force a retrieval.
Precisely. Retrieval is the physical mechanism that builds long-term memory. When you cram for an hour, you read a concept, and then 10 minutes later you read it again, or maybe do a worksheet on it.
Which feels really good at the time.
It does. But that is mere recognition. Your brain says, ah, yes, I recognize this, I just saw it. Recognition feels incredibly smooth and productive.
But it's a trap.
A huge trap. It does not build deep neural pathways. Retrieval, the act of struggling to remember something after a time gap, signals to your brain that this information is vital for survival.
Oh, wow. Survival.
Yeah, it forces the brain to fortify that specific neural connection. Cramming skips the retrieval process entirely.
So when I sit there reading my textbook for the second hour, feeling really good about myself because I understand everything on the page, I am actually tricking myself.
You're just experiencing the illusion of competence.
The illusion of competence. I love that phrase. The information is just sitting in my short-term working memory. It hasn't actually transferred to long-term storage.
Not at all.
This connects to a second major factor the sources highlight regarding long sessions, which is cognitive fatigue. I mean, I know the feeling of hitting a wall.
Oh, we all do.
Around the 25 to 30-minute mark of intense, focused study, like grappling with foreign grammar, working memory simply begins to saturate.
The bucket fills up. You can keep pouring water in, but it just spills over the sides.
That's a great way to picture it.
You are physically still reading the words.
Yeah.
Your eyes are tracking across the page, but your brain has completely stopped absorbing data into long-term storage.
Right. You reach the end of a long study session, you close the book, and you realize you have absolutely no idea what you read for the last 20 minutes.
Just a complete blank.
Which means those last 20 minutes were entirely wasted time.
Compare that biological reality to a 10-minute session. 10 minutes never reaches that 30-minute wall of fatigue.
You don't even get close.
You don't. It ensures that you are operating at peak capacity. Every single minute of a 10-minute block is a high-quality, fully engaged minute of cognitive focus. You start sharp, and crucially, you end sharp.
And when you close the session, your brain is still highly active, locking in that exposure.
Exactly.
I was thinking about how this mirrors other maintenance systems, like building wealth, for example. Nobody gets rich from one massive, completely unsustainable bank deposit.
Right. That's called winning the lottery, and it doesn't happen often.
Exactly. Wealth comes from boring, unglamorous, consistent deposits that compound for years. Or even think about dental hygiene.
Oh, that's a perfect analogy.
Right. You don't ignore your teeth for 6 months and then brush them for 4 hours straight on a Sunday afternoon to make up for it.
That would be horrific.
It wouldn't build strong teeth. It would just destroy your gums. Dental health requires 2 minutes of maintenance twice a day. It is preventative, continuous, and frankly, boring.
And language acquisition is the exact same kind of daily physiological maintenance.
Exact same.
The maintenance analogy is spot on. Small, daily, and intensely focused is infinitely greater than long, occasional, and exhausting. It is not that a short session is merely good enough for people who are busy.
It's actually better.
It is mathematically better.
Yeah.
A short, repeated session actively creates a compounding effect in your neural architecture that massive, occasional efforts simply cannot replicate.
The biology is clear. Short, frequent repetition builds the neural superhighway. But if the science is so straightforward, why do our brains fight it so fiercely when we try to implement it on a random Tuesday night?
That is the million-dollar question.
Right. Knowing the science is one thing, but dealing with the psychological fallout of our past failures is another. Let's look at the guilt of the missed Sunday session, because the psychological damage of the event-based method is just devastating.
It really is.
You set up your perfect Sunday 2-hour study block, life happens, your kid gets sick, you have to work late, or you are just, bone tired. You miss the session.
And then the rationalization starts.
Yes.
Yeah.
You tell yourself the most common lie in the adult learning world. It's fine, I'll just restart on Monday evening, 2 hours, locked in.
But Monday is notoriously busy. Monday is tiring.
Always. So Monday gets pushed to Tuesday. Tuesday turns into, well, the week is halfway over. I'll just wait for this coming Sunday and do 3 hours to catch up.
And suddenly, 3 entire weeks have passed.
3 weeks without you looking at a single word of English. And this is where the truly terrible internal monologue begins. You think, what is wrong with me? I just don't have the discipline to be fluent. I guess I'm just not naturally good at languages.
That internal monologue is the tragedy of this entire broken system. If you've ever had that thought, you need to understand that this is categorically not a discipline problem.
That is so important to hear.
You do not lack discipline, and nothing is wrong with you.
It is incredibly validating to hear an expert confirm that the failure isn't a moral shortcoming.
It's really not. The structure was broken, not the student. You were trying to run a marathon every single weekend without doing any daily training miles.
Nobody can do that.
Nobody. The psychological fallout of these failed routines creates a cycle of shame and avoidance. You associate English with guilt and failure, making you want to avoid it even more.
Which is why people quit for years at a time.
Exactly. And the harsh truth is that most of those expensive 40-hour language boot camps and intensive courses will never tell you this.
Because it doesn't sell.
Right. Selling the idea of 10 minutes a day for free doesn't support a $1,000 business model.
The language learning industry thrives on the illusion of the intensive study session. They sell the idea that fluency is an event you can purchase. But fluency is a physical reality in your brain.
It is entirely biological.
You don't need more discipline. You need a system that aligns with your biology. So to truly understand how this biological alignment works, I want to dive deep into the specific vocabulary the sources use to describe this brain rewiring.
Let's break it down.
When we talk about getting fluent, people usually think of it as just remembering words, like a computer storing files on a hard drive. But the source text uses neural pathways specifically. From my reading, this isn't just a metaphor. This is about physical matter changing in the brain, right?
It is entirely physical. A neural pathway is a tangible connection between neurons. When you learn a new grammar rule, your brain creates a new, very weak physical connection.
Like a tiny thread.
Yes, like a very fragile thread. And every time you fire that connection by practicing the rule, a substance called myelin wraps around the axon of the neuron.
Myelin.
Myelin acts like insulation on an electrical wire. The more you practice, the thicker the myelin sheath becomes, and the faster the electrical signal travels.
So the goal isn't just knowing the word, it's actually thickening the insulation around the pathway until the signal travels instantly.
Exactly. When you reach that highly myelinated phase, the signals carry the language information effortlessly. That instant travel is what you experience as fluency.
That makes so much sense.
It is the physical strengthening of brain tissue through spaced repetition.
That explains why the distinction between recognition and retrieval is so critical. Because if I am just reading a textbook, which is recognition, I am using external cues.
Right, you're not generating the signal yourself.
My brain sees the English word apple, matches it to the concept, and I feel productive because I am making zero mistakes. But I am not actually forcing that electrical signal to fire on its own. I have a safety net.
Recognition relies entirely on the safety net. Retrieval is the uncomfortable, sometimes frustrating act of pulling the information entirely from your own brain without external help.
Like when you stare at the ceiling trying to remember a word.
Yes. It is closing the book, looking at a picture, and forcing your brain to generate the word. It feels harder and slower. You might stutter, but that micro stress of searching your memory,
At exact moment.
that exact biological trigger tells your brain to produce more myelin. If you only ever practice recognition, you will never be able to speak because speaking is 100% retrieval.
Speaking is 100% retrieval. Wow. That completely reframes the goal of a study session. The goal isn't comfort. The goal is that specific tension.
The tension is the workout.
But getting ourselves to voluntarily experience that tension every day brings us back to the friction of starting. The sources refer to activation energy.
Ah, yes, a term borrowed from chemistry.
Right, meaning the minimum mental and emotional energy required to initiate a task. A 2-hour study session has a massive activation energy requirement.
It takes everything you have just to start.
But a 10-minute session has almost zero. The lower the activation energy, the higher the probability that you will execute the habit regardless of your mood.
The biological imperative is clear. Build pathways through the struggle of retrieval and lower the activation energy to near zero to ensure daily execution.
These concepts beautifully map out the memory science, but, we are humans. We are subject to bad moods and exhaustion. Even a 10-minute habit with low activation energy can feel incredibly heavy on the wrong day.
Oh, absolutely. Life gets in the way.
Let's talk about the reality of habit maintenance, because the first week of any new routine is fun. You feel motivated, you have this new identity as a language learner.
You're riding the wave of novelty.
But fast forward to day 19, the initial burst of dopamine is completely gone. You have just had a terrible, incredibly exhausting day at work. Your commute was awful. You are tired, cranky, and hungry.
The worst case scenario.
You walk through your front door and you know you were supposed to do your 10 minutes of English. Nobody is watching you. Literally no one on earth will know if you just skip it this one time.
The conditions are perfectly primed for a failure of execution. Your activation energy reserves are entirely depleted.
This is when the brain starts its most insidious negotiation. You stand in your kitchen and think, I am exhausted. I deserve a break. I'll just skip today. It's only 10 minutes. I swear I will do 20 minutes tomorrow to make up for it.
The infamous double tomorrow.
A double tomorrow. It sounds so responsible. You aren't quitting. You're just rescheduling. But tomorrow comes, and 20 minutes feels twice as hard as 10. So you push it again.
I need to interject here with the most critical rule of this entire framework.
Go for it.
When you face that day 19 wall, you must obey the golden rule of habit maintenance. Never miss twice.
Never miss twice. Okay, so missing once is a slip, but missing twice is a disaster. Why is that specific line in the sand so important?
Let's look at the psychology of momentum. You will inevitably have a day where things completely fall apart. A family emergency, illness, or just an utter collapse of willpower. Missing one single day has almost zero impact on your long-term success.
Because the pathways don't die instantly.
Exactly. The neural pathway doesn't vanish in 24 hours. However, if you allow yourself to miss a second day, you are no longer slipping. You are actively building a new habit, the habit of not doing your English practice.
Ouch. That hits hard.
Most people quit language learning entirely because a broken streak, left unfixed for 4 or 5 days, kills the momentum completely. The guilt becomes too heavy.
So how do we fix it?
You fix this by ensuring a broken streak is repaired within 24 hours. When you miss day 19, your singular mission in life on day 20 is to do your 10 minutes.
Even if I'm still exhausted.
Even if it is a weak, low-energy, highly distracted 10 minutes where you just sit on the couch and mumble through it, a bad 10 minutes keeps the streak alive. It maintains the identity of, I am someone who practices daily. Never, ever miss twice.
Permitting a terrible, low-quality session just to keep the heartbeat of the routine going is incredibly freeing. Doing it badly still counts as a win for the habit architecture.
It absolutely counts.
Now that we know how to protect the time and maintain the streak, we need to know exactly what to do with those 10 minutes, because we aren't just staring at a wall for 10 minutes.
No, we have a very specific protocol.
The sources outline a highly specific framework called the 3-4-3 Cartmet. It breaks the 10-minute block into 3 distinct phases: 3 minutes, 4 minutes, and 3 minutes.
It's very structured.
Let's dive into block 1, the input phase. 3 minutes. The goal here is exposure to natural, authentic English, like a short podcast clip, a paragraph from an article, a scene from a show.
Right.
But I have to push back hard on this. 3 minutes feels mathematically impossible if the goal is true fluency.
I hear this all the time.
If I want to move to London, I am going to be surrounded by English 24 hours a day. How can 3 minutes of listening prepare me for 12 hours of real-life immersion? Doesn't more input equal faster learning? We live in a binge-watching culture. Shouldn't I try to consume a whole 30-minute podcast?
It is a logical assumption that more volume equals more learning. It makes sense on paper, but it is actually counterproductive for adult language acquisition when you were building the foundational mechanics.
Really?
Think back to the cognitive saturation point we discussed. If you listen to a 30-minute podcast in a foreign language, how much of the specific vocabulary and grammatical structure do you actually retain?
Honestly, probably none.
Almost none. You might glean the general gist of the narrative, but you are not acquiring the mechanics.
You're just letting it wash over you.
Exactly. The rule for block 1 is this. Chase depth. Do not chase novelty.
Chase depth, not novelty.
One single source, like a complex 3-sentence paragraph that is fully, completely understood, analyzed, and internalized, provides more actionable data for your brain than 5 different sources that you only half understood.
That is a huge relief, actually.
In these 3 minutes, your goal is to feed your brain one clear, unambiguous signal. If you need to spend the entire 3 minutes listening to the exact same 30-second audio clip 6 times in a row until every single syllable is clear, that is a wildly successful block 1.
Wow. So I don't need to conquer a whole chapter. I just need to deeply process one paragraph.
Exactly.
After those 3 minutes of input, we move to block 2, active recall. 4 minutes. This is the largest chunk of time, and based on the science of myelination we discussed earlier, this is the actual workout.
This is where the magic happens.
This is where you close the material, put your phone face down, and try to reproduce the input out loud from memory. You force yourself to say what you just understood, reconstructing the sentences.
And you're going to do it imperfectly.
Oh, completely. You are going to pause, struggle to find the verb, and feel a sense of uncomfortable tension. Usually when I struggle to find a word, my instinct is to immediately look it up on my phone to relieve that tension.
Do not look it up.
Really, not even just to check.
No. That tension, that micro discomfort of searching your memory, pausing, struggling, and finally reconstructing the phrase, that exact millisecond of effort is the retrieval trigger.
The myelin builder.
Yes. Passive review does absolutely nothing for your speaking ability. Production, forcing the words out of your mouth into the air, does everything.
So block 1 is looking at the weights, and block 2 is actually lifting them.
That's a perfect way to put it.
Then we arrive at the final 3 minutes, block 3. The sources call this the anchor. I read this section, and my initial thought was that it sounded a bit like a journal entry. You write down one single line in English, but the rule is that it must connect the grammatical structure you just practiced to your actual life.
Right.
It is much more strategic than a diary entry, isn't it? Because you are tying the grammar to your own identity.
The anchor is the secret weapon that most habit builders just completely ignore. If in block 1 you listen to a dialogue using the future tense, like I'm going to the store, in block 3 you don't write down the man is going to the store.
You don't just copy it.
No, you map the structure onto your own reality. So you write, tonight I am going to make pasta for dinner.
Oh, I say, you stop studying an abstract academic subject and start using English to describe your personal reality.
When you write about your own life, you force one final deep act of retrieval. And more importantly, it emotionally ties the language to your identity.
That's powerful.
You are shifting from a student studying English to a person living their life in English. The human brain naturally prioritizes information that is relevant to the self. This psychological shift cements the learning in a way textbook exercises never could.
3 minutes of deep input,
Right.
4 minutes of struggling to recall it out loud, 3 minutes of writing one sentence anchoring it to who you are. That is a highly tactical 10 minutes.
It is incredibly dense and efficient.
To ensure we implement this without friction, let's look at how to build this routine in daily life. Because a great method executed with a poor strategy will still fail.
Execution is everything.
The basic approach for scheduling, which is the trap I normally fall into, is telling yourself in the morning, okay, I know the 3-4-3 method. I'm going to do my 10 minutes sometime today, maybe on my lunch break or before bed.
The problem with sometime today is that it's not a time.
No, it's a vague intention. And vague intentions require you to make a decision later in the day about when to do it. Every time you have to make a decision, you expend activation energy.
And by 8 p.m., you suffer from decision fatigue.
Exactly, and you won't do it.
The superior approach utilizes what behavioral psychologists call habit stacking. You completely remove the decision-making process by attaching your 10 minutes of English to something you already do automatically every single day.
You anchor the new habit to an existing behavior,
Yes.
like starting the coffee maker in the morning. You create a hard rule. After I start the coffee maker, I immediately sit at the kitchen table and do my 10 minutes. The trigger is the physical act of making coffee, not a reliance on motivation.
The environment triggers the behavior automatically. It completely removes the friction of decision-making. You don't think about it, you just do it while the coffee brews.
We also have to look at expectations. The basic approach is waking up and committing to getting better at English today. It sounds positive, but it is an unquantifiable, heavily burdened goal.
Because getting better implies a subjective judgment of quality.
Right. If you struggle during the recall block, you will feel like you failed. The better expectation is to lower the bar so incredibly low that it feels almost ridiculous to say no. You do not commit to getting better.
What do you commit to?
You commit only to the 10 minutes of time. Your only goal is to start the timer and finish the timer.
I love that. The quality of the session does not matter for habit formation.
Yeah.
Even if you sit there and stutter for 4 minutes straight during the recall block, as long as you stayed in the chair for 10 minutes, you achieve the goal entirely.
It's a win.
It's a massive win. Once you cross the tiny threshold of starting, the activation energy dissipates. You will often find yourself wanting to keep going to 15 or 20 minutes because you enter a state of flow.
But even if you stop at exactly 10 minutes and 0 seconds, the habit stays alive. You protected the streak.
It completely reframes daily goals. It's not about the quality of the individual day, it's about the unbroken chain of days.
If you are listening to this and want more strategies on how to completely remove the friction from your learning and how to build these specific input routines tailored to your lifestyle, you really need to subscribe to the show right now.
And subscribing right now serves a specific psychological function, actually.
Oh, really? Tell me about that.
It is a micro-commitment. By taking that small physical action of hitting subscribe, you are sending a signal to your own brain that you are officially prioritizing consistent daily inputs over random, sporadic study sessions.
So hit subscribe and start building that identity today.
All right, we have discussed the science, the psychology, and the scheduling. Now we are going to cross the bridge from theory into practice. We are going to execute Block 2 active recall right now in real time.
Let's do it.
I need your complete attention. Wherever you are listening right now, if you're driving, obviously keep your eyes on the road, but focus your mind. We are going to do this together. I am going to provide the input. I will read one single target sentence clearly. Just listen to it.
Ready?
By the time she arrived, the meeting had already started.
Okay, one more time for depth.
By the time she arrived, the meeting had already started. Now, I want you to mentally pause what you're doing. I am going to give you 10 seconds of silence. In that silence, out loud, from memory, in your own voice, reconstruct that exact sentence. Pull it from your brain right now. Go.
Just think for a second. Try to pull it out.
Feel the pressure.
Reconstruct the words. Say them out loud.
Okay, time is up. 10 seconds feels like an absolute eternity when you're put on the spot like that. I want to validate exactly what you just experienced in that silence. If you felt a spike of tension, if you stumbled over the word arrived, or if you had to squeeze your eyes shut to remember the second half of the sentence, that is exactly what is supposed to happen.
The struggle is the point.
Yes, that pressure, that momentary struggle without seeing the words on a page is the physical sensation of a neural pathway myelinating. You are engaging in pure retrieval.
Let's deconstruct why we chose that specific sentence and what that struggle actually accomplished. The sentence was, by the time she arrived, the meeting had already started. I noticed the structure immediately.
It's very intentional.
We have by the time in the first half and had already in the second half. This is the past perfect tense. In traditional learning, I would spend 45 minutes reading a textbook chapter explaining that the past perfect is used to indicate one completed action occurred before another completed action in the past.
And you would be completely bored.
I would look at timelines drawn on a whiteboard, be incredibly bored, and totally forget it by tomorrow.
Notice the difference in what we just did. You didn't read a rule. By forcing yourself to reconstruct the sentence from memory, you felt the rule.
I felt the sequence of events.
Exactly. You had to physically organize the events in your mind. The meeting starting first, then her arriving second, and output the correct tense to convey that timeline. That cognitive effort, the feeling of producing the grammar correctly under pressure, is worth exponentially more than an hour of passive reading.
Your brain now genuinely understands the utility of the past perfect. Feeling the rule versus reading the rule is a huge difference. Now, let's take this exact sentence into block 3, the anchor. We have to tie this past perfect tense to your actual day to make it personal.
Right, this is where we lock it in.
The sources provide a model anchor for this structure. Imagine you are doing this practice session right before you go to your job in the morning. Your anchor sentence could be, by the time I finish work today, my English session will already be done.
That's a perfect anchor.
By the time I finish work today is the first action. My English session will already be done is the past perfect structure applied to your own future.
You take the rigid grammatical skeleton of the target sentence and dress it in the reality of your own life. You are using the advanced structure to describe a victory in your day, cementing the learning by making it deeply relevant to your own identity.
We have covered an immense amount of ground in this deep dive. We dismantled the 2-hour Sunday illusion, explored the memory science of the spacing effect and myelination, and built an unbreakable 10-minute daily habit.
We really went deep today.
But absorbing this information is completely useless if you don't apply it. As we wrap up, we are issuing you a concrete action plan for your next 24 hours. Do not just listen to this deep dive, feel inspired, and change nothing.
Inspiration without application is just entertainment.
I love that quote. Here is your 24-hour challenge. Step 1. Choose your trigger right now. Decide what existing daily habit your 10 minutes will follow. Step 2. Pick your input source. Find one short thing that takes less than 3 minutes to consume. Step 3. Do one round today. Input, recall, anchor.
And step 4?
Step 4. Protect the streak tomorrow, no matter what happens. Never miss twice. To lock that first step in, we want you to comment your trigger wherever you are listening to this deep dive. Type it out. After brushing my teeth. After feeding the dog.
Public commitment is a psychological reality of how follow-through works. When you state your intention in a public forum, you increase your personal accountability, signaling to yourself that this is a definitive boundary you have set.
So drop your trigger in the comments right now. As we sign off, there is one final, incredibly provocative thought from the source material I want to leave you with. It shifts the paradigm not just for language learning, but for everything. The text says, fluent people aren't more disciplined than you. They just built a system where discipline stopped being necessary.
We spend so much energy berating ourselves for a lack of discipline, when in reality, discipline is a finite, exhausting resource. The most successful people rely on zero-friction habits and the compounding math of small, daily actions.
I want you to really mull this over today. If you stop relying on exhausting marathons of discipline and start relying on unbreakable 10-minute systems, what other massive life goals could you finally conquer?
It changes everything.
This journey was never really about studying English in the traditional sense. It has always been about designing a habit that your future self, even on your laziest, most tired day, will actually execute. You don't need the pristine grammar book. You just need 10 minutes, a trigger, and the willingness to struggle out loud for 4 minutes a day. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. If this changed how you view your habits, hit like, subscribe, and share this with someone stuck in the Sunday study trap. Protect your streak today.